Hello, my name is Erika Neuman, and I am a doctoral candidate in Learning and Organizational Change at Baylor University, and this is a presentation of my study titled STEM Integration in Elementary Classrooms, a quantitative study exploring impediments and improvements, which is part of my dissertation defense. I am an elementary educator with 18 years of classroom experience, and about 10 years ago I became curious about STEM education. I had many questions about what it was, what it wasn't, and why it seemed like STEM education was so important, even though it was treated like a novelty by my school district and other districts in my area. After participating in a STEM cohort at a local children's museum, I realized the value in STEM and saw the real-world implications it had on all of my students. I wanted to share my experiences and newfound understanding of STEM with my peers. Unfortunately, my enthusiasm about STEM education was not embraced by others, and I embarked on a lot of my STEM education journey alone. Then I began to have questions about teachers and STEM education. Why weren't they willing to try it, and what were they teaching instead? This was the beginning of my research journey. I wanted to understand why teachers were not teaching more integrative STEM. Not long into my literature review, I deduced that it was not lack of interest that was interfering with teachers integrating STEM. It was that they were not adequately supported. This was only a piece of the puzzle, though. That information begged the question, is STEM really as important as some people suggest? I soon realized that yes, it is incredibly important. Consistent growth in STEM professions was prevalent for the last 2 decades, and through 2031, it is projected to grow at 2.5 times the rate of overall employment in the United States. So my next quandary was whether maybe what we were doing was just fine in preparing and developing STEM professionals. Standardized testing and teacher-centered instruction that shaped most education systems in the United States may have been effective. This was not the case either, though. Compared to other developed nations, American students have performed below the international average in mathematics and science since 2011. Furthermore, American companies are losing their stronghold as leaders in innovation, research, and STEM-related patents to China and India. The status quo was not working to prepare students for the growing demands in STEM professions, and teachers were not averse to exposing them to integrative STEM instruction. So this led me closer to the root of the problem. Students needed to be exposed to more STEM instruction, but integrative STEM standards did not exist in most American schools. Also, teachers are not provided with training and professional development to effectively implement it into their school day. This background to my research and establishment of the problem was based on the following literature. First off, a foundational challenge faced by educators for decades is agreeing on a meaning for integrative STEM. Some literature implies that lessons in any one individual field qualifies as STEM education, while others argue that it must include technology or must include engineering. Still others suggest that as long as 2 STEM elements are included in a lesson, it qualifies as a STEM lesson. One of the most shocking discoveries of my literature review is the absence of a clear definition or even understanding of STEM education. National organizations have convened to develop plans for STEM implementation and have failed to agree on a working definition of what they are developing. This is dumbfounding to me that highly educated researchers and experts cannot even define STEM, yet classroom teachers are expected, with all of the other responsibilities that come with their jobs, to develop and implement STEM lessons. Compile this with the potential lack of teaching self-efficacy, lack of funding and resources, and lack of professional development, and it becomes clear why more integrative STEM is not being taught. Research indicates that predictors of integrative STEM include participation in STEM professional development and self-efficacy in teaching. Recent literature also has become more persistent about the importance of exposing students to integrative STEM early. Students make decisions regarding math, science, and STEM elective courses as early as middle school. Therefore, they need some groundwork laid before then. The purpose of this study was to understand why integrative STEM was not happening in elementary classrooms. Literature leaves little room to dispute the value of integrative STEM in elementary schools for all students. Studies have especially demonstrated the value of early STEM exposure to girls and minorities. I didn't need to validate integrative STEM again. Literature also repeatedly confirms that elementary teachers see the value of teaching STEM and integrating 21st century skills into their instruction. So teachers see the value of integrating STEM instruction. In my research, the literature fell short of pinpointing the reason why it was not happening. I saw the gap in the literature, and I had my own personal experiences with my elementary colleagues not integrating STEM, and this was the catalyst for my research. If it benefits students and teachers understand the benefits to students, why is integrative STEM not happening? Answering this question was the overarching purpose of my research. 3 research questions were established to investigate why integrative STEM was not happening. My research questions focused on teaching self-efficacy in mathematics and science. I was most interested in learning the impact of teacher self-efficacy in their STEM professional development interest and STEM practices. Specifically, I explored the correlation between teaching self-efficacy and STEM professional development interests, and whether teaching self-efficacy predicts STEM instruction. I was also interested in learning whether other factors, namely hours of STEM professional development and student technology use, were predictors of a teacher's STEM instruction score. Finally, acknowledging the parallels between learning 21st century skills and integrating STEM that I found throughout the literature, I was interested in collecting data on teachers' attitudes about 21st century skills and their implementation of integrative STEM. Bandura's self-efficacy theory was the framework for this research. Teaching self-efficacy refers to one's assessment of their own capabilities, and it impacts a teacher's pedagogical approaches, quality of instruction, classroom management, and student self-perceptions. Higher self-efficacy also has implications related to a teacher's capabilities to learn new skills, strategies, and behaviors, embrace change, and be receptive to innovative practices. This framework applies to my research because I was interested in the correlation between teacher self-efficacy and their subsequent interest in STEM-related professional development, and how self-efficacy might predict STEM instruction. This was based on the premise of Bandura's theory that higher self-efficacy is related to a teacher's instructional practices and their desire to continually learn and implement new teaching practices, including those that are student-centered and student-driven. This study was quantitative, correlational, and cross-sectional. Quantitative was most appropriate given the size of the population of interest, the breadth of data collected, and the rapid turnaround necessary in the data collection. It was correlational because I was interested in the relationship between multiple variables, and it is cross-sectional as I collected data at one point in time. I chose an online survey because, as Cresswell and Cresswell explain, it is the most appropriate to answer descriptive questions regarding trends, perceptions, and attitudes of a population sample, and it can be used to access a broad range of data. I collected data using teaching self-efficacy in mathematics and science, student technology use, STEM instruction, 21st century learning attitudes, and STEM professional development interests. The survey was comprised of 2 validated instruments. The elementary T-STEM was used to collect data on teacher efficacy in mathematics and science, 21st century learning attitudes, STEM instruction, and student technology use. The T-STEM was developed by the Friday Institute of Educational Innovation and is based on a science self-efficacy instrument by Riggs and Enoch. The MO-STEM was developed to collect data on teacher preferences for professional development in the state of Missouri and was modified with permission to be utilized in Texas. Upon analyzing the data, I learned that teacher self-efficacy in mathematics and science had a very weak relationship with interest in STEM-related professional development among the participants. Participants overall reported interest in STEM professional development, so the lack of correlation suggests that regardless of teaching efficacy in mathematics and science, teachers are interested in learning about STEM topics. Research question 2 inquired into perceptions of 21st century learning attitudes of participants and their reported STEM teaching practices, and the overwhelming majority of them agreed or strongly agreed with items regarding the importance of students practicing 21st century skills in class. This perceived value of 21st century skills, though, did not align with their STEM teaching practices, in which participants reported that students engage in STEM-related practices just over half the time. Results of research question 3 indicate that the 4 predictor variables are statistically significant predictors of a teacher's STEM instruction. Individually, student technology use was a strong predictor of STEM instruction, but upon analysis of the structure coefficients, The statistically significant standardized beta weight for student technology use overestimated the contribution of that variable itself, and hours of STEM-related professional development was somewhat underestimated in the regression model. Nonetheless, student technology use was an unexpectedly strong predictor of a teacher's STEM instruction. Literature explores the correlation between pedagogical beliefs and technology use in the classroom, but less is known about the relationship between technology use and integrative STEM practices. This is certainly an area to consider for future research. Based on the results of this quantitative study, important implications exist for administrators, professional development leaders, and classroom teachers. It is imperative that administrators at the district and campus level promote a culture of risk-taking and innovation. Teachers are inclined to stick to what has proven to be effective in the past. When administrators prioritize standardized testing, this is the measure of success used by classroom teachers. To increase integrative STEM, administrators must shift their focus from state testing to instructional experiences that are research-based and student-centered. When this happens, teachers will begin to feel safe in exploring and embracing new teaching practices, including integrative STEM. Professional development leaders serve as the go-between in education. They go between administrators and teachers relaying educational initiatives, and they go between research entities and teachers bringing them best practices. Based on the results of this study and the literature, teachers want to learn integrative STEM practices. The professional development leaders are responsible for making it engaging and meaningful for teachers, but also ensuring that teachers see the benefits of integrative STEM to prepare students for the changing world, as well as provide tools for success on standardized assessments. Results of this study and prior literature suggest that teachers are apprehensive about integrating STEM for various reasons. While low self-efficacy may not serve as a main hindrance, there are other factors for teachers to overcome, including risk of failure and lack of resources. Failure is an important part of learning and growing for adults and children. Results of this study, in conjunction with the literature, suggest that teachers should model risk-taking and embrace failure, and integrative STEM is a natural fit for this. And teachers don't need robots and coding knowledge to expose students to STEM. With proper training, they can understand this. The important elements of integrative STEM can be accomplished with simple materials such as notebook, paper, and masking tape. Teachers just need to be willing to try it. The most important component of my distribution plan is modeling. I intend to model integrative STEM lessons for school administrators, professional development leaders, and classroom teachers. First and foremost, this will provide a concrete example of STEM from which people can build their understanding and begin to develop plans for implementation. As I mentioned, there's no standard definition of integrative STEM, so providing examples and models will begin this process. I have shared preliminary results at 2 national conferences thus far and will continue to seek out opportunities to share my findings with others through professional conferences. Additionally, I have arranged to present my results with a network of leaders from various industries at the Pat Tillman Foundation Leadership Summit in July 2023. And once my results are published, I will schedule a presentation for the school board and district leadership to share my results of my study. Finally, I have been invited to share my study in a faculty publication at UTSA, where I currently serve as a lecturer. In conclusion, I would like to thank my advisor, Dr. Karina Call, and the entire dissertation committee for guiding and supporting me through this process and helping me to make this research and my dissertation a valuable contribution to the field of study. I realize as I have gone through this process, I've made myself a case study regarding teachers as lifelong learners and wholeheartedly appreciate your support through this entire journey. Thank you, and I look forward to meeting with you in the near future.